afternoon and welcome to a very special interview show of the Prode. India's strategic outlook in the Indo-Pacific has increasingly been shaped by the growing importance of maritime security and the control of critical sea lanes of communication. Among these, the Strait of Malacca stands out as the world's most vital maritime choke points, linking the Indian Ocean with the South China Sea and facilitating a significant share of global trade and energy flows. For India, the strait represents both a strategic opportunity and a responsibility. Its proximity to the Andaman and Nicobar Islands provides New Delhi with a unique geographical advantage to monitor and influence maritime activity across this crucial corridor. At the same time, the strait remains central to the strategic calculations of other major powers, particularly People's Republic of China, whose heavy dependence on the route for energy imports have been often described as the Malacca Dilemma. Joining me today to shed light on this critical subject is General Vinod Bhatia, former Director General of Military Operations of Indian Army, one of Indian Army's most important and strategic appointments. During his tenure as DGMO, he played a key role in operational planning and military diplomacy, including managing ceasefire agreements with Pakistan along the line of control. He has extensive operational experience across a range of military campaigns, including Operation Vijay, Operation Rhino, and Operation Cactus, among others. He has also served as the colonel of the Parachute Regiment for over 3 years, a period that saw significant growth in the capabilities of Indian Special Forces. In addition, he has co-chaired the India-US Executive Steering Group on Defense Cooperation, contributing to deeper strategic coordination between India and the United States. General Bhatia, thank you so much, sir, for your time. It's a great pleasure to have you here with us, and a very warm welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ritu. It's great to be on your platform, and good evening, rather, Jahin, to your viewers. Thank you for the introduction. I don't deserve much of it. This is all owed to the men I've served with, to the colleagues who I've served with, the soldiers I've served with. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, so I would like to begin the conversation by asking that the Strait of Malacca is often described as one of the most critical maritime choke points. From India's strategic perspective, how central is the Malacca Strait to ensuring stability and maintaining a favorable balance of power in the Indo-Pacific?
That's an excellent question, because the Malacca Strait, if you look at it, is about 70 to 80% of the oil passes from there. 50% shipping passes from there. It's a connect between the Indian Ocean. It's a connect between the Pacific Ocean. So Malacca Strait is as all of us know, narrow corridor, and about 100,000 ships pass through the Malacca Strait every year. So if you just come down to back of the envelope calculations, that is every 5 minutes a ship is passing, 12 ships in an hour. So that is the traffic on Malacca, and that's the dependence of China, East Asia, Southeast Asia on the other side. And it's not only oil. Oil is 70% of the oil flows to Malacca. It is also trade, 50% trade, because the manufacturing hubs are in East Asia, right? So if you look at Malacca, I think Malacca is right. Hormuz is only oil, but Malacca Strait is way. And as far as India is concerned, we have one of the nearest bases out there. That is Andaman and Nicobar, about 100 odd kilometers away, 120 kilometers away. And if you look at Malacca, what Malacca does for us is gives us energy security, it gives us economic security, it gives us even military security for that matter. Because in today's world, and today's world has changed, you find that if you look at especially Indian Ocean now, it's a militarized ocean. You have there was an interruption. So we have the Indian Navy. So it is a very contested sort of space right now. And the choke point is very important for us for another reason. And one of the major reasons is that we have India-China relations. It's a set of contradictions, basically. We have competition, we have conflict, we have cooperation, we have commerce. And if you look at China, China has always been, a threat to us in many ways, especially along the contested 348 kilometers line of actual control. We have contested borders, and especially after 2020, what China has done. And China's strategic concern and strategic vulnerability is Malacca Straits, right? So if we have the capability to meet and mitigate the China threat, it is his concerns are Malacca Strait, right? So our China strategy, what I call as the 4D strategy, right? Defend the line of actual control, dominate the lines of communication leading to the Malacca Straits. Three is deft diplomacy, bind to balance with nations where we have congruent convergence of interests, like the Quad and other nations. And the fourth is deny space in the neighborhood, right? So, in that domination of the slocks, especially in the Malacca Strait, is critical to meeting and mitigating the China threat. Because that is China's strategic concerns, strategic vulnerability. Everything from to China and from China passes through Malacca Straits to Europe, to the US, to the Gulf region. So that is what we should be looking at the Malacca Strait.
Yeah. So China's dependence on the Malacca Strait, as you mentioned, for energy and trade has led to what analysts call the Malacca Dilemma. So, how does this vulnerability shape India's strategic calculations and maritime posture in the Eastern Indian Ocean?
See, as I said, militarily, it is a threat in being that matters. It is not that we are a risen, responsible nation. We are not here to basically pull back the world economy, and we look at a very responsible sort of calculus as far as India is concerned. So when we look at Malacca, we are looking at only securing our own interests in the Indian Ocean. Right? Indian Ocean is our ocean. And if you see recently the sinking of the Iranian ship near the Sri Lankan coast, 40 kilometers away, is a direct concern for us because it leads to militarization of the Indian Ocean. So when you look at Malacca, you don't only look at China, you also look at your own security. And that is where I think we have invested very well now, though late a little, in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Where the major military powers all, uh, for domination seas through aircraft carriers, a big navy. Our navy is the fourth largest navy. We got two aircraft carriers. But Andaman and Nicobar Islands, with four airfields right now there, and they're being developed as air and naval bases, gives us a reach which is very important to us. If you look at the Indian Ocean, uh, China and US, especially US got many bases. In any case, they got bases in Singapore, they got bases in Djibouti, they got bases in Russia, and similarly, China has got bases. Hambantota, China has got bases in basically Gwadar. Gwadar also gets access to the Arabian Sea, then Djibouti. And so we have to look at how to meet the Chinese threat when they are in our backyard. And the only way we can do that is by deploying air and sea power and military power in the Andaman and Nicobar, which we have done. We've got Andaman and Nicobar Command. If you ask me, is that enough? Not really. We need to do more about it. Okay, we need more capabilities. I'm not talking of war. I'm talking of preventing wars. How do you prevent war? You prevent war through preparation, through a threatened being. So that is what I'm looking at. If you have to pressurize China, China's strategic concerns have to be. You have the ability to, you know, an overt ability to tell China that look, if you do this, we can do this. So that is what I'm looking at.
Yep. So coming more on Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So India's Andaman and Nicobar Command sits close to the western entrance of the Malacca Strait. So, in your view, how significant is this geographic advantage in strengthening India's deterrence and surveillance capabilities in the region?
I think it is the most critical. It is the most critical. Like I earlier said, we have our air bases out there which are very effective right now. We have Port Blair, and then we have the Car Nicobar base. We also have INS. I forget the name now. Then we also have on the other side Lakshadweep also, right? We have Visakhapatnam, we have Karwar. So we have bases. India has got 7,516 kilometers of coastline, right? And it's a peninsular country. We are basically we're a naval power. If you look at history, the Chola Empire and all our expeditions went through the oceans, through the seas. That is how we went to Africa, and that's how we went to Southeast Asia. It was through the seas, not through the land route. Okay, so the land route was only northern route, which was different, which the invaders came. But our trade, our economy, our military power was projected through the seas. So when we talk of the seas, we talk of all the choke points, about eight choke points over there, and in that Malacca is the most critical. And as long as we have reach to interdict shipping in Malacca, I think we will be safe and secure. Although our philosophy is different, our philosophy is saga, right? That security and growth for all in the region. So we have to take everyone along. And that's why I said we are a responsible nation. But responsible nation does not mean that our security interests, our economic interests, our well-being of the 1.45 billion people can be threatened. And if they are being threatened, how do we meet that threat? How do we mitigate the threat? Is the underlying, philosophy for us.
Yeah. So with increasing naval activity by China and other major powers in the Indo-Pacific, especially which are not very close to New Delhi, how should India evolve its maritime doctrine to ensure both sea lane security and strategic leverage around the Malacca corridor? And how do you see the role of friendly country to New Delhi, like United States, the coordination, Europe, United Kingdom in this whole scenario?
There are two things. One is our maritime doctrine. We have a maritime doctrine, and our maritime doctrine has held us in good state. If you look at our maritime doctrine, we have been protecting our and projecting our national interests. Uh, Anti-piracy operations, we do our defense diplomacy through it, and we have been patrolling our coastlines, and we have been providing security to our EEZ, which is one of the largest. We have over 1198 islands. So if you look at all this, so we just a second, please. So we have a maritime doctrine which is very effective, right? Your second question was, can you go back to the second question?
Yeah. Second question is
How we,
how do we see the role of our strategic partners like United States, like United
yeah,
Kingdom, like European nations, Australia, and coordinations in this whole scenario?
yeah. If you look at the world is changing, and world is changing very fast. Okay, it is not a world order; it's a world disorder. If you look at it, everyone is now the things have changed. 2026, everyone is looking at me and my interests. Okay. And there are a lot of issues in a rule-based global order, as we call it. There are hardly any rules which are followed. And India should look at its own national interests first. Uh, our position in the world, whether Australia, Europe, or EU, Russia, China, US, is decided by our geography, our national interests, our economic power, and our military power. Right now, if you look at it, our geography favors us. Our national interests are defined. Our economic power, we are the third largest economic power. And we have the third largest military also. The second largest army, the fourth largest air force, the fourth largest navy, and we are a nuclear armed nation. So we have everything going right for us. What we don't have is, I suppose, an integrated approach to things right now. Okay, especially in terms of military. And economically, our issues are with energy security mainly and trade, which is held, which is again held hostage to some tariff wars. Uh, so we'll have to look at the three things basically: our national interests, our economic interests, and military power as one, as sub cheese. So when we look at all this, we look at our neighbors. Then we look at the world. We look at our multilateral organizations. We heading the BRICS. We have the IPSA. We have the Quad. But is Quad delivered? I don't know. I don't think so. Quad is not delivered. There's much more expected on Quad. And in that Quad, we should not get involved in an anti-China Quad. You see, you get my point. When you say Quad is, China perceives Quad as anti-China Quad. No, we are the only out of the four countries. Of course, Japan is a maritime neighbor. We are the only one sharing land borders with China. Immediate. So we'll have to look at our interests and not the interests of Quad. So Quad is a good this thing, but if they want us to be, a security, only security this thing, then we should avoid a security securitized Quad. We should look at Quad as a multilateral organization. Similarly, in BRICS, we are with China. With IPSA, we are with the other countries. We have BIMSTEC, which has really not taken off. It is not giving the results which are desired. So we'll have to look at all the multilateral organizations, how they benefit us and our national interests.
Yeah. Sir, you argue that we have to not engage China militarily through engagements in Quad, but I mean, I see this, and a lot of analysts see this from this point of view that, China presents a great threat to India's not just existence, but also India's growth. And when we look at that calculus, the first friendly countries that comes to the mind of people are Quad nations. So do you think by not actively participating in Quad in terms of military framework, we would disappoint our allies, we would disappoint our Quad allies and also our Western allies?
I think if you look at India-China relations, like earlier said, uh, what do you want from China? Right? China is a resident country today. What is China's dream? Two. One is it wants to challenge the US for a unipolar world. It wants a bipolar world. Right? Two, it has got BRI. Right? So we are not challenging China's rise, but we are challenging China's BRI. Why? Because it passes through our sovereign territory. So we have differences with China. So, but all neighbors have differences. But in 2020, I think it was on your podcast only when I also said that the 2020 incursions by Chinese was a Himalayan blunder by China. Okay, it was a Himalayan blunder by China. Why? Because if China is to challenge the US for the unipolar world, it'll need a neutral India, not a pro-India. It definitely cannot do the anti-India because India is a global leader now. So China will not be diverting energies in, though it will try to contain us. There's no doubt about it, because in Asia there are only two powers, major powers, and this century is an Asian century. The world orders, the world powers shifting from the west to the east. So there's going to be transition of a world power, and we look at transitions when the transitions happen, and most transitions happen. They're violent transitions. There were 16 odd transitions in the last 1,000 years, and 12 of them are violent. So if we're looking at a violent transition, we're directly impacted by a China-US situation. And what has happened now, if you look at what is happening now, I won't be surprised if China gets more militarized and does something at Taiwan, because integrating Taiwan is China's first war. China's second war, and which was supposed to be in 27-30 time frame, China's got 6 wars, declared wars, right? The second war is the South China Sea. The third war is what it calls integration of South Tibet, which is Arunachal Pradesh. Right? So we'll have to, when we look at China, we'll have to defend ourselves against China's incursions in the line of actual control. And how do we do that is by being strong in the LAC, continue to be economic commerce and economy trade with China, but have the threat in being in the Malacca Strait. Look, you do something, we will choke you there. Your oil, your trade will stop. And this particular crisis in West Asia has told the world what will happen if oil is disrupted. Oil still remains a major weapon right now. So that threat in being has to be there, but that does not mean that China and India cannot have cooperation. It cannot have commerce. We'll have to do that, and we should look at China as a neighbor and Quad as a multilateral organization. No one's going to help anyone. Today's world is is a different world. Every nation is going to look after its interests. If you think that the Quad nation will come to India's rescue, what happened in 2020? What did Quad do actually? Did Quad serve the purpose? Yes, to an extent, yes, a threat, but not more than that. So we have to look at ourselves as a self-reliant, risen, responsible, resurgent nation.
Yeah. And how do you see the role of the United States in this whole scenario, and not just in the Strait of Malacca and in the South China Sea, but in general when it comes to a possible India-China conflict in the region, be it on line of actual control or in the maritime domain? How do you see the role of United States in this?
Okay, let me give you an extreme view. And there's nothing wrong with extreme views at times. In case of India-China conflict, which is the nation gains the maximum? US. Okay. Why? Because the two powers which are rising at something which in the Raisina dialogue, if you heard that, uh, they don't want to do the same mistake they did with China and India. He said so in as many words. Okay. That India's rise has to be controlled. Okay. So if there's an India-China conflict, the nation which gains the maximum is the US. Because in a conflict, both nations lose. No one wins. Today's wars, you don't win wars today. If you're at war, you lose. Look at Russia, Ukraine. Look at Israel, Gaza. Look at what's happening in West Asia. The wars are no longer an answer, right? So I don't see any help from anyone other than if it suits them, it suits their national interests, it suits their commercial interests, it suits their economic interests. I don't see any help. There's always a quid pro quo. QPQ is the normal thing. What do I get out of it? What is my interest? UN, I don't know, it's more or less gone, it's dead.
Yeah. So looking ahead to the next decade, what investments or strategic initiatives should India prioritize to secure its maritime interests and maintain strategic influence over key choke points like the Malacca Strait? And how do you see the capabilities of Indian Navy going further?
Yeah, there are two, three things which we can do. One of those things is that, we got to change our structures. And it is in the offing. We have a vision document which has just been released 2 days back, a national vision document. We look at Viksit Bharat. When you look at Viksit, we look at Surakshit Bharat. So what India needs to do is develop the Andaman and Nicobar into a major base, right? Give it all the wherewithal required to be the prime uh, securer of Indian Ocean, not a threat. Okay. When you talk of Sagar, so we look at everyone. So all our countries, neighboring countries, the maritime neighbors should look at India as a source of peace, as Sagar. Okay. I also look at building capabilities along our northern borders, integrating our theaters, growing economically, and diplomatically. We are already there in diplomatic, but it needs a push to become a world power. We should be sitting on the high table rather than following the rules made by the high table. We should start now sitting on the high table. We should make the rules, not follow the rules only. So that is how I look at India in the next decade or decade and a half.
And how do you see the role of China in the region coming forward? Do you think China has any active plans, be it the incursion of the Taiwan, South China Sea? Do you feel that there is an incoming conflict coming with China, because we live in a very uncertain times? Look at what's happening in West Asia, in Eastern Europe. So do you think China could plan a strategic move like that around Taiwan or South China Sea?
Yes, I do think so. But as a military man, you never, you always give credit to your adversary for doing something. So these are all contingencies. China has got a declared aim of integrating Taiwan. How they integrated, the Chinese philosophy of winning without fighting is there. But that does not mean, if it comes to it, that they will not fight. They were doing drills in the South China Sea. They were doing drills with Taiwan, and this is the right time. Sun Tzu once said, amidst chaos, there is an opportunity. And it's a chaotic world right now. And if China wants to do something in Taiwan, the US is not going to help out. The US cannot help out. The US is also withdrawing military resources from South Korea, redeploying them. They're redeploying resources from the European command. Okay. So China has been very quiet, and people say, why is China quiet? Well, it is a strategy they are following. I think it's a good strategy. Chinese study is very good, and in all this, we have not looked at the two sessions which have happened. For 15th five-year plan, what they've decided, the defense spending. So no one's looking at it because everyone's looking at the recentism, presentism take the cake. Everyone's looking at West Asia. So I do feel that China, as a nation, world civilization, uh, if it has got an opportunity, uh, it will maximize that opportunity and achieve its core national interest of integrating Taiwan.
Yeah. To conclude, the Strait of Malacca will continue to remain one of the most strategically consequential maritime corridors in the Indo-Pacific as the global trade and energy flows increasingly pass through this narrow passage like the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea, its stability and security will remain central not only to regional prosperity but also to broader balance of power in Asia. Ajal Saab, thank you so much once again for sharing your insights and expertise with us today. It has been a great session and it has been a privilege hosting you, sir.
Thank you, Ritwij. Everyone looking at West Asia, and this is the right time to look at Malacca, actually. Malacca also, because our radar is very, pencil thin. We're all looking at the Strait of Hormuz. And thank you very much. Lovely conversation. Thank you indeed.
Thank you, sir.